Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of What's Brewing with Mobile Cup of Joe. I'm so glad that you decided to join us tonight, and thank you so much for being a part and letting us into your life once a week. I'm your bearded barista, Alvie. Welcome, and I'm so glad that you're here. Let's go ahead and introduce you guys to the Brew crew, going left to right as usual. Is bringing the ones and zeros, Mr. Chuck Haines. Back from the dead, Fred, representing Tech Dissected over there. Mobile Cup of Joe here in the center. And also Spec Sheet Tony. And then joining us tonight, a very special guest, Mr. Aaron Traffas. I will stop for just a moment and introduce him to you. Good evening, Aaron. How are you this evening?
Good evening, guys.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we've got a lot of stuff to go over, and just feel free to chime in whenever you have a point to interject or anything like that. Don't feel like you have to wait on our permission to jump in. We're very relaxed here, and we're just glad that you're a part of everything here. So thanks for joining us, Aaron, and let's go ahead and get started with some stuff. We've got a lot of freshly brewed news to go over, an espresso shot, and the Asus Zen Watch, actually something I'm really excited about. YouTube's news, Nexus 6 news, Project Tango, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Chuck and Fred, what's brewing with some freshly brewed news?
Well, why don't we go and start with the Zen Watch? I know you're the most excited about that. So I was going to start with the Microsoft OpenSourcing.net, but we'll get to that here in a minute. So the Zen Watch. Zen Watch is the latest Android Wear watch to hit the market. We knew it was coming. It's been announced. It was announced, a month or two ago. Asus has been kind of demoing it, but everyone's been going, when can we actually get our hands on it? So it was supposed to go on sale in Best Buy last week. Best Buy, of course, did their normal debacle of things, and you could see it, but you couldn't actually buy it. So I believe it was today or yesterday. It actually went on sale in the Play Store and Best Buy. You can actually buy it now. So it is a square watch. It's not a circular watch. But in my opinion, I think it's the best-looking Android Wear watch that's out there right now. It's a leather-ish band. I don't know if it's real leather or not. But it looks like a really, really nice watch, nice band. As you're sitting out there actually wearing it, people aren't going to think, like Tony says, that you're wearing a computer on your wrist. So, Alvie, what's your thoughts? I know you want one.
I do. I want one super bad. Well, first off, Best Buy is on my bad side right now for dropping the ball on it. But they also, before it went live, the page said it was going to be $229, and it rode $229 until it went live at $199. I hit them on Twitter, Asus and Best Buy, so I feel like I was personally responsible for them dropping the price to $199. So, but anyway, no, I think it's beautiful. I think it's a fantastic device. I think the price is perfect. $199 is exactly where Android Wear needs to be to get it on to the masses, and it looks really good. Android Wear is designed for square faces at this point. The 360 and LGR look cool on your wrist and look more like a watch. But if you're going to use Android Wear to the fullest, really it needs to be at least square-ish. Something else I'm really excited about on the Asus Zen Watch, this is the first Android Wear that Google has allowed any type of variation to the Android Wear formula. They still have to stick kind of close to the normal Android Wear thing. So it's not exactly a skin like Samsung will do or HTC will do on their phones. It's not a skin per se, but it does allow for some options. And if you go check it out, you can see that it looks a little different. It's still Android Wear at the core, but it does look a little different. So that's why I'm super excited. The price is right. It looks pretty good physically, and it looks good software too. So I'm really excited about it. I'm halfway there. I've got $100. I just need my other 100. So donations are open. I'll leave a link in the description for anybody that wants to help me get along. No, I'm kidding. But no, if you cannot tell by the way I'm talking about this watch, I'm super excited about it. But what do you guys think? Aaron, feel free to jump in too. What do you guys think about this Asus Zen watch?
It's certainly an elegant-looking watch. It looks like a real watch. It looks like it's got a traditional watch look to it. But I have to say that since it went up on the Play Store, seeing for the first time the actual screenshots of what the screen looks like, I like it even more than I was anticipating. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, I know
when I was like, because I've got the Samsung Gear Live, and I know I was for the longest time really rooting for the LG G Watch R, and while I still think that looks good, I know Alvie kind of convinced me that this Zen watch is probably going to be my next Android Wear device when I do get it. And you're talking, $199 for this watch is what I paid for my Gear Live. This is without a doubt going to be my next thing because I'm still, we had the kind of fad of circular displays, and yeah, we're going to still see more of those, but I think we're at a point now where people are realizing, hey, maybe square displays on smartwatches are probably what we should still keep doing. So I think the watch looks fantastic. I'm really interested to see how ASUS's Zen UI, their kind of skin, their sort of laying over Android Wear does turn out. So yeah, thanks to Alvie, I'm probably going to be another owner of a Zen watch here hopefully pretty soon.
I'm going to be ordering one myself. I've been a huge Asus fan for a very long time, and this phone, I'm really excited about it. I too have the Gear Live, and that first round of watches is kind of like the hello world of Android Wear. They were more proof of concept than anything else, and you know what? It works. It doesn't make me excited to put it on every day when I have to, clip that awful plastic charger off the back of the thing. And every time I get a notification, I'm frustrated with the lack of the amount of text that I can get on it. And the only thing that a round watch I think would make me even more angry. So I'm 100% bullish on the Asus Zen watch.
Yeah. Now let me ask the question. I'm going to throw this out there. Do you think it's a mistake that Google let up on the Android Wear skinning and let Asus did this? Let Asus kind of, it's not like a super skin, but it's not Android Wear. They've done a couple tweaks here and there, so it's not the stock Android Wear. Do you think Google made a mistake by opening that door?
I think they did. And here's why. Asus, although they're a really good brand for a lot of the things that they make, they're not popular, not in the U.S. So I don't think that doing anything to change themselves from, if any normal consumers, which I don't think there are a whole lot of normal consumers who have purchased Android Wear watches, but if any normal consumers have purchased Android Wear watches, they may be less likely to switch over to a Zen watch because it's not only is it foreign, but it's a brand that they aren't so familiar with other than the $500 laptop they saw at Walmart. I just don't think there's a lot of consumers who are that familiar with Asus. People who build computers, we know Asus motherboards and stuff like that. But and then Asus phones, there's just not any available in the U.S. except more recently the Pad Phone Mini and the Pad Phone X. So I think it was a mistake for Google. I really was excited to hear that they weren't going to allow skinning for Android Wear. But I guess we'll just have to see. We'll have to see where it goes.
Me personally, no. I think it's a good idea, and here's why. Both Nexus 7 tablets are Asus tablets. They have proven themselves to be able to present a stock Android experience, AOSP kind of experience. And so it may be the bone that they threw since they didn't get the tablet this year. I don't know, but I think it's a good idea. I've mentioned this before. I don't like the standardization of Google, and especially with Android, how we're going. I like the options for skin. I really wish that as a consumer, as a user, I could pick the elements that are a part of it, but I know that that's not how that works. It's either going to be skin or not. Samsung has won Android, for better or worse, in the past few years because they skinned Android. Stock Android didn't work, and you can argue that with me, but Samsung's winning, and they have the most hideous, ugly skin that's ever been put on there. I don't think Asus is doing that with Android Wear, but I like it when Google opens up stuff and lets people play around with it a little bit. This is how I think Android should be on phones and tablets in general. Still has to look pretty much like Material, still has to look kind of like Android. But let me mess with some fringe stuff. And what we've done is we've covered up everything. So if you pick up a Samsung, if you pick up my Sony as stock, you don't know really what stock Android is. We do as tech people. But if I tell my friend down the street, hey, this is stock Android, this is AOSP, that means nothing to them. So let me play with some fringe stuff and make it look, kind of like an Asus Zen watch. That way it differentiates itself from the Samsung Gear stuff or the Motorola stuff. Instead of just all of them looking the same, that's what we argued about so much with Apple and all the iPhone stuff. They all look the same. I don't think that's a good way to go. And I mentioned that before, but no, I think it's a great idea, Chuck, to answer your question the longest way possible. I think it's a good idea.
Well, and what does this mean for the Nexus player? The Nexus player is an Asus too. Now I know it's branded Nexus, so they're not going to be able to skin it. But do you think we're going to see a Asus branded non-Nexus Nexus player? An Android TV that has basically the same innards, or what does that mean? Because Asus does manufacture the Nexus player as well.
Well, with the skin for the ZenWatch, like, have we gotten any specifics on how deep that's going to go? Like, is the general UI for Android Wear going to remain the same with just some like pretty cosmetic additions here and there from Asus, or do you know if like the whole interface is going to be completely changed for the ZenWatch? Like, have they really gone into too much detail about that, or do we just really know that there's going to be a skin that's about like as far as our knowledge goes? Because I'm looking through like the screenshots and stuff of the ZenWatch, and it's kind of hard to tell if like the general UI is going to remain intact or if it's going to be something like completely foreign from what we've seen so far.
I don't know. I don't know if they've said it necessarily, whether whether they've said how deep it can go. So, and of course, I haven't actually seen any hands-on with the ZenWatch just to see how deep they actually went with it. I'm okay with a little bit, but my biggest fear is, if Google doesn't keep this tightly controlled, then all of a sudden we have the next Samsung that everyone thinks is Android. Samsung's not Android. TouchWiz isn't Android. But if you ask any person outside the tech community what's an Android phone, oh, Samsung, they own Android, right? The Galaxy S5 over there. I mean, that is the standard Android phone that is compared against an iPhone, which, we can argue, what's the best phone out there on the market. But the fact of the matter is in the average consumer's eyes, the iPhone is the best phone out on the market. So what do they compare it against Android? The S5, which is arguably not by any means the best Android phone that's out there. So I'm okay with a little bit of tweaking here and there, but there's got to be a real fine line. I still want to know. I still want to be able to pick up a Gear Live, a ZenWatch, or whatever, and I still want to be able to, without even thinking, be able to navigate through the entire thing and it all act the same.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Chuck. I really do. Especially with some stuff that is too heavy. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, even TouchWiz, still sits on top of Android OS. There are going to be aspects of it that you're not going to be able to get rid of unless you root the phone and so on. But Android is sitting there at the core of it all, even though it's buried under a clunky, heavy-duty interface. Pretty much in the same way that if you cut back to the early 90s, Windows was not even an operating system. It was just a clunky interface that sat on top of DOS, which was the real operating system. But getting back to the original question, I think that as long as it doesn't get too extreme, I think we're okay with. I'm okay with Google allowing some variation there. It is open source. It is supposed to be played with and manipulated and customized. And we've talked about this before, but Google is with Android. They're not just pushing their own devices, but they are promoting an operating system as a platform, and I think they've got to allow some flexibility and some room to customize and manipulate, so they don't become too monolithic. They're not Apple, they're not Microsoft, and they want to be adopted on all kinds of hardware and with many brands. So I'm okay with what we got here.
Yeah, I agree. And let me go ahead and just cut in since this is a good quarter-hour stop. Let me remind everybody that's watching currently live, the Q&A is open. If you have another question about ASUS or about any of these other topics that we may or may not even get to, please feel free to, in the Q&A, in the comment section of the YouTube channel that we're on our Google Plus page, anything like that, ask us a question or add your comment. What do you think about this skinning of Google and all? You can use the hashtag MCOJBrew if you have a question on any of the socials. We do monitor those throughout the show, and we'll try to get to those if we can. And also, if you're checking us out on the podcast, thanks for joining us there, too, and listening into our beautiful voices. You're missing my background. It's different tonight. We are fireside chat here in my bedroom where the magic happens. So I'm glad that you're joining us in the podcast to listen in on that. But, man, I was trying to get through that with a straight face. But anyway, yes, hashtag MCOJBrew. On all the socials. Q&A is open. Also hit us up on the the Google Plus page, the event page, and the YouTube channel. Pretty much reach out to us. We're here, and reach out if you have a question or comment to any of us or Aaron as well. But let's move right on through. Is there any other freshly brewed news going on, Fred and Chuck?
Yeah, well, let me segue, since we were just talking about playing around with open source and big monolithic companies and platforms. I know everybody's going to be eager to get to talking about Lollipop, Android 5.0 very soon, but let me segue and pass over to Chuck Haines, who's really excited about Microsoft news today. Microsoft has open sourced the .NET platform, and Chuck is going to fill us in on what that means for the development world and possibly consumer world as well.
Yep. So for those of you guys who aren't ones and zeros and may not understand what .NET actually is, .NET is kind of Microsoft's underlying programming language. .NET itself isn't a programming language. There's languages that sit on top of .NET. .NET's actually the runtime. You can kind of think of it kind of like Java. And there's a bunch of different languages that sit on top of .NET and allow you to write applications. Traditionally, it's a Microsoft-only product, so you either ran it on Windows, or you ran it on a Windows Phone, or you ran it on Xbox. The .NET language itself is actually an open standard, so there is actually an open source version of .NET. It's not done by Microsoft. It's done by a company called Xamarin, and it's called Mono. The problem is Microsoft obviously with its manpower can move .NET a lot faster than an open source community could. So Mono did a pretty good job of keeping up with .NET, but it just wasn't really a first-class citizen. So the big news behind Microsoft open sourcing .NET, and what they've basically said is that, look, we're uploading .NET to GitHub under an MIT license. So it's legit open source, a pretty open license. MIT is a very, very open license for open source software. They've also said that we're bringing it to the Mac, to Linux, and to Android, which may interest some people here. So Xamarin has a product, I forget exactly what it's called, but allows you to write in .NET applications for Android and iOS. And it's okay. It works fairly decently. But what Microsoft has basically said is that we're taking .NET, we're making it cross-platform, and then you're going to be able to program in Visual Studio for both Android and iOS, and we're going to fully support both Xamarin and Apache Cordova, which is kind of the wrapper around HTML5 applications. So Microsoft's really making a big stride here, because a lot of people didn't use .NET in the non-industry world because you can't run it on a Linux server, you can't run it on a Mac, and who really wants to run a Windows server? I mean, let's face it. If you're running a server in the real world, you're running Linux. And so a lot of people have been using Java, PHP, Ruby, Node, any of those type of things, because you can run them on Linux. They're open source, those kind of things. So I'm really, really interested to see where Microsoft is going to take this, because this may finally truly become that language that us as developers have always been looking at, which is write once, run on every single platform. If they really can bring .NET to the Mac, Linux, obviously it already has Windows Phone, iOS, and then Android, we're finally going to have that golden language that is write a single application and run it everywhere. And I'm super excited to see if Microsoft can actually deliver on that.
That's very ones and zeros. But no, but somebody else smarter than me chime in, because I've always asked that question: is there a reason or a way to do one thing on multiple platforms? So it sounds like we're trying to head that way.
Yeah, we've been trying to head that way for years. It's been promised for years. Java was the write once, run anywhere. That's always been the write once, run everywhere. It's never happened. Then you had HTML5 and JavaScript. Write once, run anywhere. Well, native performance on a HTML5 app stinks. So we've been striving for this for years and years and years, and we've never gotten there. So maybe this time we'll actually get there. I don't know. We'll see.
How long do you think it's going to take before this actually makes a difference? I read the news story and kind of yawned. It's been a while since I was in that world. But back when I was looking to hire, to beef up our development team, it was very clear to me that there were guys that were really good at the open source languages and dialects and your PHP and Perl and all of that stuff. And then there were these guys that were, obviously a good fit for a Microsoft shop, and they knew all of that. How long is it going to take before we see guys that are going to be versed enough to where they can kind of merge those two disparate worlds?
It's gonna move at the speed that Microsoft moves. So if Microsoft, let's say in the next 6 months, has got .NET really running on the Mac and really running on Linux, I'd say within the next year, maybe 2 years, you're going to see kind of the really, you can write in any language. I think it's all going to depend on how quickly Microsoft and how much Microsoft wants to invest in the open source of the .NET. Interestingly enough, ASP NVC, which is .NET, has been open source from the beginning, and it's actually exploded in growth for that exact reason, especially on the Microsoft side. If you were developing any kind of web-based application, that's what you were using. Even if you were a traditional open source developer and you wanted to kind of start merging over to the Microsoft side, that's what you went with. So I think it's all going to depend on how fast Microsoft wants to move and how much they really want to push. Microsoft stands everything to gain here because the more licenses you can sell for Visual Studio across all the platforms, the more money Microsoft makes. So money's always behind the scenes of everything. And I think this is just another way for Microsoft to make a bunch of money, but it's a smart move in the right direction, I think.
Now, one question and question for you, Chuck, on the golden universal language here. I've just kind of dabbled a bit in programming, but as I recall, when .NET first came out, and correct me if this is not still the case, my understanding was that you could code .NET applications in a variety of different languages, compile it, and basically then plug it into the .NET platform. So you have, even if that's still the case, you have even more universality, don't you? Because people can basically code however they want to, as long as they make it compatible with the server side. You're basically ready to go, and then really you could take anything and run it on a .NET server, presumably on any operating system.
Yep, you're actually exactly right, Fred. So one of the really nice things when .NET first came out, the reason I said .NET itself isn't a language is because you don't program in .NET. You program in, for example, C#, or you program in Visual Basic .NET, or you program in F#. Those are the actual languages that you program in, and they're all very different languages. C#, Visual Basic, F#. I mean, even the paradigms behind the languages are different. There's a Python that you can run on .NET. There's a JavaScript that you can run on .NET. So you have your choice of languages, and in the end, they can all talk to each other through the .NET runtime. So you can have a C# developer in your shop, a Visual Basic developer in your shop, a Python developer in your shop, and and they can all write in their own language and talk and use each other's because it's down at that kind of lower, goes through the .NET runtime.
All right, I have a question for you, Chuck.
I haven't bored you yet.
Do what?
I haven't bored everyone yet.
No. Well, here's my question, because you're talking a lot of developer speak and all that kind of stuff. For me, the normal guy, the end user, what does that mean for me when this happens?
So what that means for you is faster time to market. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's take Microsoft Office, for example. Microsoft Office on Windows is on what? Version probably 2014 by now. What's the version on the Mac right now? 2011. So 3 years behind, because the languages are fundamentally different between a Mac and Windows. So you have two entirely different code bases for the exact same application. And games is the exact same way. Civilizations just finally released for the Mac, and it was released for Windows, 2 or 3, 4 months ago, the latest version of it. So as a consumer, what you're going to see is if people start buying in, faster time to market. I can finally release the same application on Linux, Windows, and Mac at the exact same time.
Okay, that does make sense. Okay. Because I'm like, there's got to be a benefit for me other than, ones and zeros. So, no, that does make a lot of sense. And no, you didn't bore us too much on that. But I do want to get to at least one more freshly brewed news before we hit our lollipop stuff. So what else? One big story that we've got that we want to make sure we talk about.
Well, how about the YouTube Music Key? I don't know a whole lot about this, so I'll turn it over to Fred to kind of talk, or Alvie talk a little bit more about this. But I know a lot of people have been excited about it.
So I'll kick it off here. YouTube Music Key is a new music service Google has been putting out through YouTube, and what I think has been the big question and we've been kicking it around here as well is this a way to get people to sign up for another subscription, since a lot of people are already paying for all access on Google Music, Play Music, and the news today is that it may only be for the beta period, but if you are an all-access subscriber now, if you've got the pay account through Play Music, you'll be able to sign up as a beta tester of YouTube Music Key. And Alvie, I know you were talking about this. Do you have more on what you'll actually get with the Music Key?
Well, they've talked a lot about a whole bunch of different things. The main thing I'm super excited about is just the unification of it all. I did a report on this like 6 months ago. There was another service that was streaming music off of YouTube. So you had Spotify and All Access, Beats that had just come out, and then there was this other service doing something similar here. And I was excited about that because it was the future of music, and I saw it coming. And this is like super it because YouTube's actually doing it. But you get background listening, you get offline playback and all that kind of stuff. But teenagers, young people especially, they get almost all of their music off YouTube. What they'll do is they'll go search a song and let it stream, and they'll just keep a tab open or whatever, but they don't buy music. They don't even use all access stuff anymore, or Spotify, those kind of services. They'll just go to YouTube and stream it, and the quality is just terrible, especially if you're using mobile or an older phone. So this because that's my thing, like it sounds bad. If I'm going to listen to music, I want it to sound good. And this, I think, is going to give us that option. I have all access, so I'm excited to get this already, even if it is just the beta or just for testing it out without having to get another service. But I'm excited to try it out, and it makes me feel like I'm I'm hip, I'm young again because I'm doing what all the teenagers are doing. But no, I'm excited about it, and I think this is really a good push by Google and YouTube, and very smart of them to include all access as part of this subscription without. Because it would make me feel terrible. I've got all access, and now you're going to pull the rug out from underneath that service and move to this one, or I'm going to lose that. So just do the right thing, Google, for once, and and let me just jump on that. But no, I'm excited about it. Joe, you're I would wager to say half my age, the youngest one here. I'm sure you've got plenty of insight on just music in general and this thing in general. So what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I'll come out as the exception to the demographic you just described. I'm actually a subscriber to Google Play Music. I'm not one of the typical teenagers that is streaming all their music from YouTube because I like to think I have better standards than that when it comes to my music quality. But I've been a subscriber to All Access for pretty much. I was actually a subscriber when it was first announced. I think that was back when the Nexus 7 2013 was announced, if I'm getting my dates and everything right. So I'll admit that yes, I've done the occasional thing where I went to YouTube to stream a song or something, and those are dark days we're gonna put behind us. But I really do think this is a good inclusion that Google is doing, putting the YouTube Music Beta Key, or whatever they're calling it, in with all access. Because when I listen to my music now, it's generally with my headphones on my phone or with putting it into the Bluetooth in my car with a radio system. But even just having, different options, so yeah, you can listen to your music now, just the audio, or if you want to watch the video on YouTube, you now have both those options, which I think that's really why it's awesome that Google is doing this, including it with the All Access subscription as well. So I'm really looking forward to using this. I think that Google said that next week the All Access subscribers will be getting the beta to the Music Key. And I know this is something I'm really going to be trying out because, music videos are always fun to watch. I still enjoy that. even though they have declined in popularity quite a bit in the past few years. But this is something I'm really going to be interested in seeing because I am a big music listener. Like I said, most of the time I just listen on my phone, but having something free that Google's thrown at me, like no ads, you make awesome playlists with music on YouTube. I think this is really going to help them, and like for my demographic especially, like they're talking about who is already on YouTube and they're streaming videos. If they're going to see something, it's like no advertisements on here, like offline listening and stuff. I think this could be a really smart move on Google's part, how they're handling this.
I think one of the challenges is going to be convincing people to get it, though. Like, especially YouTube users, if they use YouTube already, why pay for YouTube is what they're going to see it as. I think getting the information is out there. Even for us, it's kind of tough. Like if you search it, it's like, what is this exactly? And right. I think that's going to be their biggest hurdle going forward.
Well, no ads is big. Having to sit through commercials basically when you land on a YouTube page is bothersome, and they will include a Google Play Music subscription with the actual subscription to the new service.
Yeah, the music key thing, yeah. And has anybody else noticed? Now, I'm a big fan of YouTube, and I'm not saying anything bad against YouTube, but have you noticed a lot more ads leading up to this announcement? I've noticed even people talking to me like, man, it sure seems a lot more ads and longer ads. Like, I wonder, is that a push to convince people to get this ad-free service? You throw a bunch of extras at them. I don't know.
Conspiracy theory begin.
Well, or they're just monetizing by maximizing ad revenue and giving people an opportunity to pay to opt out of it.
Yeah, I think for me personally, the only thing, because I'm a guy who uses the free Spotify because I couldn't justify the payment to All Access because I really just want to listen to radio. I mean, I don't care about a certain playlist or this or that. So I think not having ads when I try and watch a YouTube video, I'd probably pay the money just for that.
Yeah.
See, I think there's been a change, not an issue, but a change with Google's ad services altogether over the past month or two, because I always, I'll go and find the top-rated games, or just download a few games a week just to try them out to see if there's something that could get me to actually waste some time on my phone, especially having review phones where I want to really hammer on the battery. I want to get some games, and I've noticed there's so many more ads in some of these games. I don't know if they're just using a different API or however you might say that, Chuck. I'm sure I'm slaughtering it, but if they're using some different version and it is now just we're talking like these 15-30-second ads that have a little counter down in the corner that are somewhat new, or maybe I've just been using different apps. But I've found that when I try to find a way to just purchase the game or disable the ads, through spending $1 or $2 on the game or $5, whatever it is, when I try to do that, more and more of these apps are actually moving to subscription services. So I've been playing like Magic Piano by Scholl, and there's no way to just buy the app and play the music that's in it. You have to actually subscribe to it and pay a monthly fee to get the music that they have that's like newer music and pop music and not just older free music basically. So I don't know if it's a change in what they're actually doing, or if it's just that I'm playing different kinds of games now. But I think I have noticed an issue and a change in the spirit of Google's ads lately.
Well, the whole subscription-based system is something that's become extremely popular. I mean, even in Microsoft now, you don't go out and buy Office anymore. You pay $10 a month to have a subscription to Office, and the reason people are doing it is because, especially indie developers, it's hard to have someone pay $5 for an app one time and then expect that you're going to update that app every time. For the next 3 years. There's no recurring revenue. So, spending $1 or $2 to get rid of those ads, that's $1 or $2, that's it. There's no recurring revenue, which is why you're seeing more and more of the subscription-based things, especially with in-app purchases and stuff.
That's why I really wish that what was it, on Live? Was that the video game service? I wish that had taken off.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a subscription, kind of like a Netflix or Hulu of video games.
Yep.
But that's for another show. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about in the next 15, 20 minutes. And this comes to our espresso shot. We do this every week. It's a little mini review. Last week it was more of a macchiato. It went a little long, but it was good. So good, in fact, that we ended up doing an extra show, an hour show in the midweek for it. So, but anyway, this is our espresso shot, our mini review, and we're all going to chime in except for me and Fred. We're Lollipop free at this point. But let's talk a little bit about Lollipop. So Tony, Joe, and Chuck, what's brewing?
Well, I know big news for Joe and I this week is that way earlier than we thought and way earlier than Cyanogen, the company, promised, we've gotten access to some unofficial yet extremely stable alpha builds for CM12 on our OnePlus Ones. Now, I don't know how they got so stable so soon. It is basically just AOSP. I mean, they are CM12, but there's no features. There's no, special CyanogenMod features merged in yet. But they're so stable, it's kind of ridiculous. You almost want to just call it a beta because the bugs that are in it are just bugs. They're not like full-on broken features. I think yesterday the build that we were running that I was running had broken Bluetooth. Today, it's still, it works. It works well enough to like send a picture back and forth. I think if you used it for a long period of time, it'll still have issues. And I think the only real major issue that I've seen with it since we've been using it is there's no video recording. So I'm very, very surprised that within a week, within probably a week or 10 days of initial Lollipop builds starting to drop in the Motorola Moto X Pure Edition soak test, that we've seen a almost fully functional build on the OnePlus One when Cyanogen only promised, I think, 90 days was what they said initially. So I am very happy with it, and I know that it has. I don't know. I'm in that Android fanboy state of awe playing with the new version of the operating system, especially one of these game changers. I mean, this is a game changer in the same way that Ice Cream Sandwich was for phones. It's just such a different feel on your phone. It's different and the same at the same time. I know I was expecting it to feel way more different than it is when I was watching I/O, the presentation at I/O, and it doesn't feel as different as it looked on the screens, but it still feels just as magical and unicorn, fairy dust, double rainbow type stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna add on to Tony was saying about like the bugs and stuff. Like he mentioned the Bluetooth, I tried to hook it up to my car's like radio system today, and it would say like the Bluetooth would connect, and then it'd say Bluetooth sharing has failed. And the only other error that or bug, it's not really an error, the only bug I've really noticed is that if you try to use swipe on the keyboard, let me see if I can demonstrate it here real quick. If you try to swipe on the keyboard, it'll say, unfortunately, the Android AOSP keyboard has failed. And that's really, again, you're talking about an alpha build for a ROM. If you're just having like minor Bluetooth issues and then keyboard failing and no screen sharing, that's pretty awesome. If, again, your alpha build and you just have these minor bugs going through it. But I've had a Lollipop running on my phone for, I think this is my first official full day running Lollipop, or my first or second day, I can't remember now. But like Tony was saying, you watch like the press event that Google had at Google I/O back in June, and when it was announced then, it was like mind-blowing and completely different Android. And it still feels relatively the same from what we knew in KitKat, but everything just feels so refined and so cleaned up and much more matured in the update. I mean, even just from the lock screen, when you have it there and you've got your notifications and you can just swipe up to unlock. And I know the Hangouts isn't doing it justice, but just the animations and everything with the phone are incredibly beautiful. And it's just throughout the system. It's not just, opening your app drawer or going to Google Plus or Gmail or Google Now or something like that. All those material design, the animations, everything. I was even on Facebook, and to my surprise, even the transitions on that, they still had things coming in and out of the screen, like Google is demonstrating with material design and with how everything has a certain position with Android now. So if you touch something, it comes in from a certain position on the screen. I'm probably butchering the way they explained it on the show floor there, but it's just I'm like losing my words now because, like Tony said, this is something I've been waiting for so long, and it's having it here. I've absolutely loved it so far. Just between the animations and the additional functionality you have with like snoozing your notifications and stuff for an hour, so which I'm doing right now, snooze notifications for an hour, 2 hours like you want to. The refined Google now, I noticed Google search on here is actually quite a bit snappier too. So overall, it's a lot faster, and even for an alpha build, and like I said, the OnePlus One is no slouch, and the performance we're getting out of it is probably due to the fact that the OnePlus One is kind of a boss when it comes to its internals. But this is probably the fastest ROM I had on here, and I kind of dare to say maybe faster than CM11S on it. Battery life, I haven't really been able to test out too much, but hopefully we do see some improvements with that. But overall, I've been absolutely thrilled to death with it, and I want to thank Tony for kind of urging me and nagging at me to put this on my phone, because it has been absolutely awesome to have on here, and I'm really excited to see how CyanogenMod and other ROM makers like Paranoid Android and PackROM kind of implement their new features on top of it, because even just stock right now, it's better than any other ROM I've ever used.
I know that now the thing about the Google keyboard, I'm pretty sure that's on any CM12 build right now, which you can get on many of the devices. It's the AOSP keyboard for some reason is just having trouble with with being put on another device other than a Nexus. So all you have to do is download the Google Play keyboard, the Google. Is that it's just called Google Keyboard, right? If you just download if you just download Google Keyboard, it's exactly the same. I mean, it looks exactly the same. You can set it to material light or material dark theme, and it works perfectly. And I've been using that just because I want the whole Nexus experience right now. Even though I normally use Swipe, I've still moved to the Google Keyboard just while I'm checking it out. And the other thing that I think, the thing that sticks out the most to me okay, since we have 4 of us here, we'll probably do this. We'll everybody pick one thing that you really love about Lollipop. And the thing that sticks out to me the most is that it is so polished that everything you touch, pretty much everything in the operating system that you can interact with, has a special animation. Watch when I click here to see if you can see it. See, I love that. I mean, if you just touch anything that you can interact with, it has that little thing. And that's not just, this is the settings, because it was the quickest thing I could get to, but that's not just the settings. If you go into Google Plus and you touch and hold on any card in Google Plus, it does that exact same animation. So those kind of little tweaks, that's how they're going to finally catch up to the polished and finished feel that iOS has had for, well, since launch, really. But that's probably my favorite feature, is those tiny little tweaks that they've made and added to Android. Aaron, what is your favorite thing? I know you only had it for a little while, but what is your favorite thing so far about Lollipop on your phone?
First, I want to make a quick comment to what you said about putting the polish and the little animations and stuff. If Samsung had done that, I would be distributing pitchforks to peasants. There's just something about that Google was able to do it and do it well and do it cleanly in a way that did not, or at least we assume it's not going to eat battery life. It does make it beautiful. It's going to take some getting used to, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a great thing. I am a huge fan because, like I'm sure so many of you, I go through a lot of different devices and move from one to another. During the initial setup process, it said, "Hey, do you want to move all your accounts and settings and apps from a different device?" You turn on NFC and you touch it to your last phone, and it starts, installing and pulling everything. And I know that was, it's similar to the way that that Google would restore all of the apps from a previous phone that you had. But for me, it was always kind of taking a chance on whether or not it was going to work, because sometimes when I'd move to a new phone, it wouldn't restore all of my apps, and I'd have to go in and manually install those. And so having that one user interaction to be able to know that you were going to pull the at least the apps, if not the installation, at least not the authentication and login and stuff, but at least get all your apps from a specific device. I thought that was very nice, just on the setup process.
Hey, let me interject on that. That's because I've seen that a bunch, Aaron. For me, I really hope this moves into like a cloud save type thing, because I always sell my previous device to get my new device. So I would never have been able to touch the two together because I don't have the one. But I think it's perfect. I mean, it's really, really, really stinking cool. And like, it's one of those like, why is it taking to 2014 to finally get to that? It's an awesome idea, but I really hope that moves into some type of secure cloud save feature or something like that. But it does make the setup thing a whole lot quicker than the hour and a half of setting up and downloading and all that. So no, that's cool. All right, back to you guys that actually know what you're talking about.
So actually, Alvie, I'll jump off that real quick. So when you do, if you don't want to touch your phone, and I know this because I just did, so, unlike, Tony and Joe, I have Android like God and Google intended, which is not CyanogenMod, but actually AOSP. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So what you can actually do with the setup is it will give you the option to restore the apps, and it will show you your previous devices. So, like, for example, when I first got the Nexus 9, it would let me restore the Moto X backup if I wanted to, and restore all the apps from the Moto X. Obviously, I didn't want to do that because I keep different apps between tablet and phone. But this time here, when I installed the new kernel and turned off encryption and had to factory reset, I was able to select the N9, and it actually did restore all my applications. I also, like Aaron said, have had issues before where I've selected a backup and then some apps get installed, some apps don't. The Play Store might decide to upgrade itself halfway through the process and things start crashing out. It was extremely unreliable. So it definitely was super reliable. Now, the one thing I am going to say, it's awesome that it restored my apps, but Apple still has something up on Android here. If I restore a backup from iCloud on an iPad, for example, not only does it restore my apps, it restores all my accounts and restores all my data for the app. While it was awesome that it installed all of my apps on the Nexus 9, it didn't restore any of my accounts, so I had to go through and set every single app up still. So we're getting there, but I think there's still a little bit to go on the whole restore process.
They said that was going to be enabled, and it was going to be up to the app developers to whether or not they wanted to allow for the data within the apps to come across too, if I remember correctly, I think.
Okay. Well, I hope that's true, and I hope that app developers do decide to take that, because it's definitely something that's, I don't use an iPad much, but it is something super useful.
I know that would make for lengthy restore times for my phones, because usually by the time that I've used a stable ROM for long enough that I'm either wiping it to go to a new ROM or a new version or switching phones, my backup on my device is usually has about 6 or 7 gigs worth of data. So I know that'd make for a lengthy restore process, and they'd probably start saying, "Hey, we're going to use some of your Google Drive space for your backup here."
Well, likely they would. Obviously, your iCloud backup is the equivalent of your Google Drive, so.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I wish they would do it.
So my one favorite feature, I have to say, it is the notifications and the lock screen. Just double tapping to wake up and then seeing my notifications and then just swiping up or swiping down from the notification tray. Everything's just so super nice. Just and the notification shade in general. And people have obviously seen it a million times, but so swiping down once, there's the notification shade, and then swiping down again, there's all your actual notifications themselves. It's just those little things there, and having the notifications actually on the lock screen. Notifications on the lock screen and actually being able to action them was one of the things that I think Apple did right with the iPad, and I'm super happy to see it because it's so nice just to wake it and boom, there's all my notifications right there on the lock screen. It's really nice.
I'll go and do my kind of favorite feature of it. I kind of piggyback off of Tony, but mine's probably just all the animations that are present through it, and I mean that's really apparent even just from the lock screen. And if you go to kind of swipe, I'm still getting used to the new gestures and everything on here. But if you go ahead and swipe up, you can see the clock right there kind of goes towards the back behind your notifications. Their notifications kind of stack up in the cards. And if you go to your recent apps or whatever the new name for it's called, those kind of pop out from the bottom, and then you can just cycle through those, and they're all stacked on top of each other, kind of like a Rolodex or something. And this is probably one of the most basic applications on here, but Tony was mentioning this earlier today in our Hangout chat, and I noticed it today at school and I was using it. This calculator is absolutely awesome. So if I start to do a calculation, say I do 89, times whatever number, I don't know if it's going to show it up that well or not, but if I go ahead and do that, Did it? It pops up right there, but without hitting enter, with a calculation right there in the bottom corner, which is
another number.
Sweet. So if I go ahead and go
Number in there.
type, focus it in right there. You can see the number down there changes while I'm typing on a calculator. And this is the coolest thing. This is super stupid, but if I hit delete, the animation... Oh, that's not doing it. Why isn't it deleting? Okay, well I gotta hit enter. But if I delete that, the animation is like covers it with blue and everything, but just like that's present throughout the whole system. The animations, it sounds like such a small thing to get excited about, but using it on a daily basis, you can watch YouTube videos about it, you can look at pictures of it. But having those on a daily basis really do make Android feel a lot more mature and make it feel like a more complete operating system. And even something as simple as that is really going to be enough for Android to kind of say, hey, you know, we're a thing now, and it's really the reason why this is now able to take on iOS along with all the other functionality and features that it does bring to the table.
Yeah, Android, I mean, especially if you go years back, it was always kind of not a kiddie system because iPhone really owns that, you know, good for children and elderly kind of thing, but just it was less serious. And now, yeah, the material design in Lollipop looks more like a mature design, something that people can get excited about. And if you're listening on the podcast, I'm so sorry that we've been showing all this beautiful stuff. Maybe some of the guys will feel like sharing on their feeds or anything, but so you can at least see what's going on. But the animations are gorgeous. The colors are beautiful. And yes, you do need to see it to believe it. So Chuck, being the only one with true Lollipop, I guess we should have been showing your screen a little more. But anyway, but that's our espresso shot for the week. A lot of Lollipop stuff, and really, here's what you need to do: update to Lollipop, and if whatever that means, if you need to root and ROM your device or flash a factory image, or just go ahead and buy that new Nexus 9 that you've been looking for. Go ahead and do that because Lollipop is worth it. But that concludes our espresso shot. But before we conclude everything with tonight, I do want to give everybody a moment to plug what's going on. And so we'll go right to left since, Aaron, you're the end of my list backwards this week. So, Tony, I'm going to start with you. I usually end with you. What's going on this week? What's brewing? And where's that baby?
Oh, man. You know, I actually didn't think I'd be able to make it this week, but my wife is out with her mother right now walking around Walmart and Kmart and different stores trying to get that baby out. So we've done spicy food. We've done walking the McKinley Monument, which if you've never been to Canton, Ohio, the McKinley Monument's about 200 stairs up to McKinley's mausoleum. So we've done those every day. We've had as much spicy food as we could stomach, and this baby still will not come out, which we hear is pretty common for the first one. So we're only about 3 days overdue, and I'm hoping that I'll have a little new co-host next week on the show. But yeah, no, that's pretty much it right now. It's a waiting game, you know. It's kind of just waiting for the baby to show up, and I haven't got anything new. Still have the Note for Droid Turbo, which I'll be writing reviews on this week, and the Movira BT200 headset, which I showed off last week on the show. If you haven't checked it out, you're going to hear from Aaron Traffas at the end here. He'll do his closing plugs. And if you haven't checked it out yet, Joe and myself had Aaron as a guest for a special round table for the Droid Turbo a couple days ago, which is up on the channel for the podcast, and it is up on our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to check that out, search for Droid Turbo Round Table. It's about an hour of us just talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of Verizon's new Motorola flagship. But that's what's going on with me.
Yeah, I was really hoping, because this Friday was the perfect one, since she was due like a week ago. They're like right in the middle of it, you break in, and sorry to interrupt, guys, and I've got to go deliver this baby, and you could take your phone with us, and we could be in there, and it'd be part of the live hangout. I'm sure she would appreciate it and love it, just, you know, so she could look back on it in the future. But no, I'm really hoping to see this new baby soon. I know you guys are excited and anxious. Joe, what's going on with you at the channel? What's brewing?
Well, as soon as I get off of this hangout tonight, I'll be uploading. I did a quick video, my first impressions of Lollipop here on the OnePlus One. It's a lot nicer than my kind of very rough example I did here on the show tonight. But I also just got in today the Sony Xperia Z3V. This is an exclusive to Verizon Wireless, and is basically just the Xperia Z3, both a V added for Verizon right there. And you've got your Verizon branding on the front and the back and a V in the name, so kind of obvious what carrier this is on. But I'm really excited to get this in. I love Sony products, and we don't really get too many Sony smartphones here in the States, so I'll be testing this out quite a bit this weekend. And also my review for the Droid Turbo, that should be going up either Saturday or Sunday night. So we've got a couple videos going up on the channel and testing out the Z3V, so pretty much just playing with some phones this weekend and getting some more videos up on the channel.
Awesome. Yeah, you talk about Sony. I'm jumping in. I got the Z3 tablet compact this week, so expect that stuff on the channel too. I love Sony. I had
a
it
little bigger than this.
Yeah, for comparison.
Yeah, just a tiny bit bigger.
A little bit. But yes, I had to import it. The charger was actually one of those big chunky ones from Japan kind of thing. But whatever. I've got plenty of wall adapters and all that kind of stuff. So, Fred, back from the dead, Fred, what's going on with you over at Tech Dissected, Fred?
Hey, well, I attended, I've been mentioning this for a while, but I did attend CES Unveiled in New York City last week. This is really just a tease and a preview compared to the real CES show in January in Las Vegas, but there were a few dozen vendors in a relatively small room in Manhattan, and saw some very cool stuff. I'll be posting some articles and some reviews of some products, previews and reviews of some products that I saw on Tech Dissected in the near future. I did walk away with an iFit fitness armband device, the first foray into fitness devices. So I have not started testing it yet, but I'll be getting that stoked up and running over the weekend. As you might guess, a lot of what was going on there was all about wearables, a lot about fitness, and a lot about home automation. I did not walk away with any home automation devices to test, but there are some things that are going to be released in the next few weeks that I may get some preview devices on. And while I couldn't really join in the party here with you guys talking about Android 5.0, I'm still Lollipop challenged, but my friends at Sprint have told me that they're expecting review devices, and I am in line for one of Nexus 6, hopefully in the next week or so. So I will enter Lollipop land with you guys, and hopefully be ready by next weekend.
Hey, Fred, can you show that device that you were talking to us about, or is that under embargo or anything?
I don't think it's under embargo. I don't have it nearby at the moment. But the device itself is just a regular Nexus 5, and really what it is the solution that's deployed on it, which is the ability to switch between two user profiles. And I'm still testing it. It does work well. What they've been encouraging me to do, and which I will get to when I really put this thing through its paces, is to get the thing loaded up, get applications running in the two personas, and then run some tests and analysis to see that it's not actually slowing down the functioning of the device, which will be interesting to see. But the switch between one persona and the other is instant. It is actually two instances of Android running simultaneously in parallel. I don't think it's under embargo, but I do want to check on just what they want to put out there at the moment. And I have been speaking with the CellRox guys, and they may be one of them may be willing to come on to one of our hangouts and talk about the virtualization solution, which is pretty cool so far.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll check while you're over there. What's going on for you? What's brewing this week for you, bud?
Oh, what's going on with me? Trying to stay warm. It has been extremely cold here, as I know it is in most of the country. So we're supposed to get snow tomorrow, possibly, which I'm like, snow in November? That just stinks.
We've got inches over here in Michigan, so I don't want to hear you complaining too much right now.
Yeah, but you're in Michigan. I'm in the middle of the U.S. I'm not up north by any means. What else? Other than that, not a whole lot going on for me this week.
Cool, fair enough. Yeah, I'm down near Atlanta, so it got into let's see, Fahrenheit. It's about 50s, I think, today. And so yeah, we were far from cold. I still run the naked Jeep, so it was no big deal over here. So, Aaron, what's going on for you this week? Go ahead and plug some of your stuff, brother.
Well, I did have a ton of fun on the roundtable earlier this week talking about the Droid Turbo. My review went up to Auctioneer Tech on Monday or Tuesday of this week, I think. And then I also farm for about 5 months out of the year and just finished a couple weeks ago here in South Central Kansas. And this summer I spent just an enormous amount of time in the tractor with a less than ideal mobile experience, and I went through several different devices, and I posted a big long story about how all the devices I went through, and how I finally ended up believing, and I still believe, that the LG G3 actually is the best phone for out in the real world in any kind of industrial application. And that story went up on my personal blog at AaronTraffas.com if you're interested in knowing which phones I went through and why I think the G3 is still the best phone, even with the Nexus 6 that I'm excited to hopefully get here in a week or two. I still think the G3 is better for the farm and for industry. I am going to be getting this week a Z3V as well. Unlike Alvie, I've been a Sony hater for a long time, since the days of the mini disc and the Mavica and the memory stick, and I'm holding a long grudge. And this will be the first Sony phone I've ever had a chance to play with. So I'm going to be reviewing that, as well as an LG Tone headset. I'm big on Bluetooth headsets out on the farm, and so I'm looking forward to playing with the review unit on one of those latest models. So. I'm going to be hitting refresh on the tracker page for my Nexus 6, which shipped from China this morning, and I also, right before we started, before we went live, got an email saying my Nexus player shipped as well from the Play Store. So that'll be fun to play with as well. So I write about technology and auctions at auctioneertech.com and aarontraffas.com for my farm stuff, and during the rest of the year, I'm the community evangelist for Purple Wave, and we're an internet auction firm based out of Manhattan, Kansas. So, and I sure want to thank you guys for letting me be on the show tonight.
Awesome. Yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us. You had a bunch of good stuff to add, and I'd love to have you back, especially once you get your hands on some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
Especially once you fall in love with this beautiful Sony device that's coming your way. I can't speak for that. Here's what I can speak for. I had a Sony Z Ultra. I loved that phone. It was actually absolutely my favorite phone I've ever had. So as far as that one goes, it's fantastic. This other stuff I can't speak for because I hadn't had that many Sonys. So far I'm digging the Z3 though. That's what's going on for me. I'm Z3ing it hot and heavy over here, trying to figure out this thing and trying to manipulate 8 inches. It's a little different than 6.5 inches, but I'm getting the hang of it.
Well, let them know what's going to be coming next week from that.
What's that?
Let them know what kind of story you're going to have for us next week regarding.
Yeah, something we're working on, because we've teased about it a lot, but we are working on the story. How I got rid of a cell service completely, and I'm going to use this tablet, this 8-inch tablet, as my phone, and we're going to do a whole write-up, whole story, video, and everything about it, so you can see exactly how you can do tablet as phone. We're not really sure what we're going to name it yet, but that's the story that we're working on, hopefully next week or two. But that does conclude our show, and I just wanted to thank, first off, Aaron for joining us. That was fantastic. I really appreciate you being on board. Thanks so much for that. Thanks so much to our live viewers and the questions that you guys asked. And also, if you're listening on the podcast or watching us later, thank you guys for checking in with us and letting us be a part of your life. We enjoy doing this, and we hope that you guys do too. But for Aaron, Chuck, Fred, Joe, and Tony, and me, your bearded barista, thank you guys so much for checking in with us one way, shape, or form, either video or audio. But we will see you guys next week. Good night.
Night, guys.
Night.
Good night.